morning, and on behalf of LMS leadership, we welcome you to the 2022 Veterans Day Assembly. We are so excited to have everyone back in the gym. This is the first time we have been together for Veterans Day Assembly since fall of 2019. Today will be the privilege to say thank you to all the American veterans and appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. Today's program, you will have the chance to hear stories, quotes, and poems about what it means to be a veteran and why tomorrow is such an important day. We will also have LMS choir, orchestra, and band singing and playing patriotic songs. Finally, we'll have the chance to learn about a way to honor our veterans at home. On the day prior to Veterans Day, it's important for us to take a moment to recognize the importance of work and sacrifice that our veterans have made. Thank you for your attention and respect in this assembly.
Removing your hat. All of us have been in a large burn and are familiar with the phrase, ladies and gentlemen, we now ask you to rise and remove your caps for the playing of the national anthem. However, this tradition of removing one's cap has gone much further than you think. In America's history, removing one's hat became a gesture of respect. Men took off their hats in churches, schools, and when they entered someone's home in the presence of a lady. One's hat during the national anthem is actually added in the U.S. Code. Although there is a penalty following this expectation, it's generally a sign of disrespect. Cancer patients are exempt from this hat word. They may keep their hats on or caps at all times if they wish to. Also, members of the armed forces who are in full uniform will not remove their caps, but instead salute. Hats are an essential article of clothing, but they once were. Since they're still worn by many Americans today, our national anthem, our U.S. flag, the Pledge of Allegiance, all have certain protocols that we must follow as citizens and pass along to our children by showing the shared respect that we made our past with the present and the present for the foundation for the future. I'm grateful to be American. I'm also proud that our national history is part of my own. It's an honor to brave men and women who are currently serving or have served in the armed forces are among my ancestors, relatives, friends, neighbors, and co-citizens. I am proud to follow the manners that have been established for help honor the best symbol of our country. Now please rise and remove your hats for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were back then. Each and every day, countless sacrifices are made by the brave men and women in our armed forces to protect the many freedoms that each of us enjoy. Today, we thank you. Today, we are honored to have veterans among us, and many of you in this audience may have friends and family that have served or are currently serving in the armed forces right now. To the veterans that are here with us today, we thank you, and we will not forget the sacrifices that you've made for each of us. Tomorrow, Friday, November 11th, 2022, our nation will celebrate the holiday called Veterans Day. To mark this important holiday, we are pleased to honor the men and women of our armed forces with this musical salute. Now please enjoy the Mount Rainier March by our LMS band under the direction of Mr. Coco. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, the fighting of World War I ended in 1918. Due to the conclusion of the war to end all wars, November 11th became a universally recognized day of celebration. The day was originally declared Armistice Day 8 years after the end of World War I and honored only veterans of that war. Then in 1954, after World War II and the Korean War, it was renamed Veterans Day to honor all veterans who served America in war and defended democracy. So today we honor all of our veterans who unselfishly placed their lives on the line for our freedom. Those men and women were ordinary people until they heard the call of duty and answered it. They left their families, their homes, and their lives, not for recognition or fame or even to honor we bestow upon them today. They fought to protect our country, to maintain our way of life. As we honor our veterans and remember their great deeds, let us also salute those who are currently fighting for our freedom.
In 1921, In 1921, an American soldier, whose name known to God, was buried on a Virginia hillside overlooking the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. The burial site of this unknown World War I soldier in Arlington National Cemetery symbolized dignity and reverence for America's veterans. Similar ceremonies occurred earlier in England and France, where an unknown soldier of the Great War was buried in each nation's highest place of honor. These memorial gestures all took place on November 11th, giving universal recognition to the celebrated ending of World War I at 11 a.m. on November 11th, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It became known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day officially received its name in America in 1926 through a congressional resolution. It became a national holiday 12 years later by similar congressional action. If World War I had indeed been the war, November 11th might still be called Armistice Day. But in 1939, World War II broke out in Europe and shattered that dream. Of the 16 million Americans who served in the armed forces during the war, more than 400,000 died.
In measured steps he makes in rounds, the click of heels the only sound. He stands erect, so straight and tall, with pride and dedication responds to the call. With deep affection his vigil keeps over those who forever sleep. He responds not to the visitor's stare, maintaining his vigil as if in silent prayer. In the morning's twilight hours, his watch becomes like cathedral towers, reaching from earth to heaven above, a lasting tribute to one man's love. As time and seasons come and go, his vigil remains for all to know, that beneath that scared Arlington sod lies three buddies but known to God. dedicated to my cousin, SSG John Gallagher, U.S. Army Special Forces, killed in action January 5th, 1968, Republic in Vietnam, and to the men who burned the Tomb of the Unknowns. Now please enjoy Patriot Dreams by our LMS choir under the direction of Miss James.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. There my fathers died, land of the Pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
The Vietnam Veterans Memorial stands as a symbol of America's honor and recognition of the men and women who served and sacrificed their lives in the Vietnam War. Inscribed on the black granite walls are the names of more than 58,000 men and women who gave their lives or remained missing. Yet the memorial itself is dedicated to honor the courage, sacrifice, and devotion to duty and country of all who answered the call to serve during the longest war in U.S. history. Here are some interesting facts about the names on the wall. Of the 58,272 names on the wall, approximately 1,200 are listed as missing in action and prisoners of war. The number of men killed on the first day in Vietnam is 997. By comparison, 1,448 soldiers were killed on the last day in Vietnam. There are 3 sets of fathers and sons on the wall. Almost 40,000 of the men on the wall were under 22 years old. 12 soldiers on the wall were 17 years old, 5 soldiers were 16, and 1 soldier on the wall was 15 years old. There are 31 sets of brothers on the wall. The names of more than 8 women appear on the wall. These women who nursed the wounded. 244 soldiers were awarded the Medal of Honor during the Vietnam War. 153 of them are on the wall. Those who survived the Vietnam War and the families of those who did not survive see the faces and understand the pain that these numbers created. For many of these numbers are not just numbers, but they are friends, fathers, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men and women, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little know nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause, for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we were highly resolved that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth.
A letter from Civil War soldier Sullivan Ballou to his wife July 14, 1861. My very dear Sarah, the indications are very strong that we shall move in a few days, perhaps tomorrow. Lest I should not be able to write again, I feel impelled to write a few lines that may fall under your eye when I shall be no more. I have no misgivings about our lack of confidence in the cause in which I am engaged, and my courage does not halt or falter. I know how strongly American civilization now leans on the triumph of the government, and how great a debt we owe to those who went before us through the blood and sufferings of the Revolution. And I am willing, perfectly willing, to lay down all my joys in this life to help maintain this government and to pay that debt. Sarah, my love for you is deathless. It seems to blind me with mighty cables that nothing but omnipotence could break. And yet my love of my country comes over me like a strong wind. It bears me irresistibly with all these chains to the battlefield. But oh, Sarah, if the dead can come back to this earth and flit unseen around those they loved, I shall always be near you, in the gladdest days and in the darkest nights. Always, always. And if there be a soft breeze upon your cheek, it shall be my breath, as the cool air fans your throbbing temple. It shall be my spirit passing by. Sarah, do not mourn me dead. Think I am gone and wait for thee, for we shall meet again. Sullivan Ballou was killed a week later at the First Battle of the Bull Run, July 21st, 1861.
Operation Red Wing is the story. In the summer of 2005, an elite four-man Navy SEAL team departed to the high Hindu Kush Mountains in Afghanistan. The men were part of a covert mission dubbed Operation Red Wing, and their target was a terrorist leader close ties to Bin Laden. After initially successful infiltration, local goat herders stumbled upon the SEALs' hiding place. Faced with the question of what to do, the non-seemingly hostile herders, the SEALs were unable to reach headquarters through radio communication. The SEALs decided that killing the unarmed combatants would violate the acceptable rules of engagement and set the men free. Shortly after the herders disappeared, the SEALs were confronted by a large force of local Taliban and Al-Qaeda, who had possibly been informed of the SEALs' position from the herders, and the incoming hours of a firefight ensued in which the SEALs encountered superior numbers and heavily armed enemy forces. During the confrontation, Lieutenant Michael Murphy moved himself into the open after noting his team's radio communication wasn't functioning properly in the mountains. While calmly placing an emergency call, Lieutenant Murphy was mortally wounded. Second-class SEAL Danny Diaz continued fighting after being shot in the hand, but soon died from additional gunshot shots. Second-class SEAL Matthew Axelson continued fighting, even after sustaining a terrible head wound, and presumably died from a rocket-propelled grenade blast.
Thanks to his valiant comrades, the remarkable kindness of strangers, and his own courage, only one SEAL, Marcus Luttrell, made it out of the ferocious firefight alive. The 2014 film, Lone Survivor, depicts this heroic and tragic tale. For his actions, Luttrell received the Navy Cross in the 2006 White House ceremony. SEALs Axelson and Dietz received the same honor posthumously. Lieutenant Murphy posthumously received this country's highest military honor, the Medal of Honor. Luttrell may have been the firefight's lone survivor, but he hardly emerged unscathed. He struggled with survivor's guilt, post-traumatic stress disorder, and physical after-effects of the ensuing years. "I died on that mountain too," he said of his torment in a 2007 interview with NBC. "I left a part of myself up there." Now please enjoy Honor and Glory performance by our Elemis Orchestra under the direction of Mr. Cole.
We lived, felt dark, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up the crow with the foe, to you with fallen hands we throw. The torch be yours, be yours to hold it high, and keep great faith with us who die, who shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
Lonely fear lights up the sky. Can't help but wonder why you're so far away. They had to take a stand in someone else's land. Life can be so strange. I wish we never had to choose to either win or lose. We could find a way. And I won't turn my back again. You run around the bend, so hurry home till then. Till then, stand tall, stand proud. Voices that care are crying out loud. And when you close your eyes tonight, feel in your heart how our love burns bright. I'm not here to justify the cause, count up all the lost. It's all been done before. Just can't let you feel alone when there's so much love we're sending out to you. Oh, courage that you've known, bravery you show, clearly lights the way. We pray to make the future bright, make the wrong things right. Wrong, we're all praying you remain strong. That's why we're all here singing along. Stand tall, stand proud. Voices that care are crying out loud. And when you close your eyes tonight, feel in your heart how our love burns bright. Stand tall, stand proud. Voices that care are crying out loud. And when you close your eyes tonight, feel in your heart how our love burns bright. You are the voice that will guide you right. Feel in your heart how our love
Take a moment to think of veteran. When you see someone in a uniform, someone who serves us all, doing military duty, answering their country's call, take a moment to thank them for protecting what you hold dear. Tell them you are proud of them, make it very clear. Just tap them on the shoulder, give a smile, and say, thanks for what you're doing to keep us safe in the USA.
So now is the time not only to honor those who have fought or are fighting for our freedom, it is also the time for each of us to take part in protecting it. The defense of freedom is not just for those in the military. Each of us shares a duty and that responsibility. We don't have to join the Army or the Navy or any other organization of defense to actively defend our way of life. We can protect it, our freedom, simply by maintaining it here in America. If we want to preserve our freedoms, we must put them into action, for example, by voting in elections or speaking out against injustices. We must also ensure that everyone feels the benefits of freedom, and we can do that by volunteering in our communities or teaching our children what it really means to be American.
Veterans Day isn't just a day for veterans, it's a day for all Americans. It's a day to remember why they were fighting, and a day for all of us to begin our journey in protecting our freedom and the freedom of many future generations.
With 250,000 members of our military transitioning back to civilian life each year, veterans are returning to schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods across the country. For many of these veterans, returning home is the end of one transition and the beginning of another. In the Green Light Event program, the premise is simple. Change one bulb in your house or on your porch from white to green. Why green? Because green is the color of hope, renewal, and well-being. A green light means go, and that's what veterans are known for. Their ability to take action quickly no matter the challenge. They demonstrate great leadership skills in any situation and represent the best of America. Their involvement in communities is central to our nation's success. Green light is a term commonly used to activate forward movement. The simple action of changing one light to green is intended to spark a national conversation regarding the recognition of veterans and to green light them forward as valued members of our communities. This Veterans Day, we ask your family to change one light to green in a visible location on your porch, in your home, or at your office, and keep it glowing every day as a symbol of appreciation and support for our veterans. Then, share your support by taking a picture of your green light and posting it using the hashtag #GreenLightEvent. By uniting behind a visible symbol, we can ignite a national conversation in our communities about opportunity, success, and service for veterans as they take off the uniform.
On Veterans Day, we acknowledge humbly that we can never serve our veterans in the quite same way that they served us, but we can try, we can practice kindness, we can pay it forward, we can volunteer, we can serve, we can respect one another, we can always have each other's backs. This is what Veterans Day asks of all of us to think about. The person you pass as you walk down the street might not be wearing a national uniform today, but consider a moment, a year, a generation ago, he or she might have been one of those fellow citizens who was willing to lay down their lives for some strangers like us. And we can show how much we how much we love our country by loving our neighbors as ourselves. President Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States of America.
Today, it is indeed our privilege to say thank you to all Americans veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those who are willing to pay. Today, we celebrate Americans veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. We encourage students to participate in Greenlight a Veteran to honor our local veterans this year. Let us always acknowledge the importance of supporting our local veterans. To all veterans, thank you for your courage, strength, and dedication. We recognize and honor you for keeping us safe. Happy Veterans Day. Thank you to our guests, the Board of Education members, parents and families. Thank you to our superintendent, and our principal and our assistant principals. And thank you to all of the students and teachers who are involved in putting on today's program. We'd most especially like to thank our veterans for being here today. If you are a veteran of the armed forces, could you please stand at this time so we may recognize you. Once again, on behalf of our entire school community, I thank you for being here today, and I thank you for your service to our country.